In 2005, only 6% of terror attacks in the US were by Muslims. 2010 Europol report showed that from 2007 to 2009, 99.6% of all terror attacks in the European Union were done by non-Muslims. So when you think of, we don't want to become Europe, all right, which I understand, for other reasons as a whole, right? That's the pro-American, anti-Europe part of me coming out. But no, but on on a serious note, statistically speaking, the idea that Muslims pose a more significant threat to society than anyone else is a completely baseless claim. That's not to downplay the threat of radicalism. It's not to downplay the threat of terrorism. However, are we looking at all forms of terrorism equally? Are we looking at all mass shootings equally? There were over 300 mass shootings in the year 2015. 2 of them were done by Muslims. Are we analyzing the facts properly, or are we analyzing them through the prism that is given to us by our favorite cable news network? And that is the problem with us, that many times we choose to focus on not what's actually happening around us, but what the news tells us is happening around us. And those things that are overblown and what is pumped into us and driven by agenda politics is what we are going to shape our lives after, shape our identities after, and proportion our fears and normal daily lives after, by what is fed to us by the media. As of June 2005, 2 times as many Americans had been killed by right-wing extremist groups as by Muslims. 48 by right-wing extremist groups, 26 by Muslims. That's a study from the New America Foundation. And again, as I mentioned, the 300 mass shootings. Well, what about the other ones? These are the ones that are actually labeled as terror attacks. These are attacks that are labeled as terror attacks. Many times, other things are not labeled as terror attacks. So one of the issues that we have in regards to our polemics and in regards to our labeling is that if it's done by a Muslim, it's a terrorist attack. If it's not done by a Muslim, it's not a terrorist attack. We have shifted effectively the definition to just that, right? So before we know the nuances of a case, before we know anything about a person's personal life, such as the attack in France, a man who was a non-practicing Muslim, who identified loosely, who really was born to Muslim parents, used to drink, go to clubs, had nothing to do with his local mosque, and the first person he ran over with his truck was a Muslim grandmother, in fact, was the first person that he plowed through. 1/5 of his victims in France were Muslims, but immediately it was dubbed an Islamic terrorist attack, very quickly, before any of the facts come out about that case. Now, in the case of other attacks, if it is not a Muslim, no matter what ideological motivations are found, that will not be dubbed a terrorist attack, and that has frequently been the case over and over again. I can give you some examples. Anders Breivik, who perpetrated the Norway attacks on the 22nd of July, 2011, he first killed 8 people by detonating a van bomb in Oslo, and then he shot dead 69 participants of a workers' youth league summer camp. He cites in his manifesto Thomas Jefferson 10 times. He cites Robert Spencer, who was a prominent Islamophobe, 47 times in his manifesto. It was not dubbed a terrorist attack. Michael Page walked into a Sikh temple, murdered 6 people in New York. It was not dubbed a terrorist attack. Dylan Roof in Charleston murdered 9 African-American worshipers in a church as they worshiped. Clearly had ideological motivation in his manifesto, from his Facebook page, and so on and so forth. It was never called a terrorist attack. Robert Deere, who attacked a Planned Parenthood clinic